Welcome to Warblog. This is a video because I haven't done anything. Look, in 2 months, October, November, December. So I've been looking at the server and noticed it's been down a bit, and so I've done something to improve it, and I'm actually probably going to upgrade the server. Well, I have already upgraded the server, to be quite honest. But it was so simple, it hardly feels like an upgrade, but it's now gone from... it's doubled the RAM, whatever that was. Anyway, I've been looking at things. Obviously, the Ukraine war is slowing down. That's one of the impetuses. But I've been looking at the Myanmar scenario situation. It looks as though lots is happening. So I sort of... And it's so much easier to do these simple ones. But what's happening there is basically the rebels, and in this case the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army in northern Shan state, and this is sort of the real sort of northern part of it, because they are making ground in quite a few other places, are making ground, and in particular they're using drones to sort of make their ground. So essentially, it's just a sort of simulation, really, to sort of look at this. Now, I did want to just rush this out, so I didn't put any rivers in. It's mainly sort of mountainous jungle. This area looks a little sort of easy, lower lying or flat. I didn't want to really give it plain, so give it agricultural, but it doesn't really blend in. The rest of this is sort of more plain but undulating, so I'm just giving that sort of hills. So really, to be quite honest, I don't really know what is going to happen. But we've got these two irregular units fighting the sort of regular units. Now, I would have thought that on their own, like this, they might be an even match. So what I'm going to do first is actually just attack ordinarily with 1-to-1 odds. That's sort of what I expected, really, because they're obviously not doing very well. Now, in some instances, as in here, we can just move in. Now, they are all sort of apparently well, they're not all, because I'm looking at the sort of map, the live map, and there's quite a lot more. They seem to be all over the country, but these ones seem to be near the Chinese border, so I'm wondering if they're getting sort of, help from the Chinese, and that might be a really stupid question, because maybe people actually really know. I just sort of just trying to catch up on things, really, because I haven't done anything for a while, and I do intend to sort of do more. And I was just sitting back and sort of thinking, wow, this is amazing. I definitely don't want to let this sort of, fall by the wayside, so to speak. And I also got some other news, but I don't think it's really news, but we can think about that. So we've got to sort of decide what we're going to take. So we don't have that many regulars, but we're going to maybe move in this direction, I think. Let's move there. Well, we could move there and take that. Now we're going to try and get these with drones. Let's sort of see what the drones do, because it is new technology, and just simply having a drone to drop a mortar bomb. So he's down 1.2, no effect. 0.2, 0.5. So he's not down half, but 1.55. So not brilliant, but we've sort of done our first move. But we did over here just test the battle options. Now, they've been depressed once, and they're depressed once. So obviously they're trying to sort of defend. So we can move over here. The question is, well, to be quite honest, they're actually in a town. So they're going to have massive additions. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start it again. I'm going to put a couple more units on just to make it a bit more fun. 1 minute. Okay, so I've reloaded the scenario and put a few more units on. Maybe not as many as I wanted, but we'll see how it works. I think I've done something wrong, but I can't figure it out. Anyway, so it's now the main our turn. So we know that those odds are going to be 1 to 1. So if we now just sort of prep them with drones in the first instance, so we didn't do even as much damage this time, but let's see if that makes any difference on the odds. 1 to 1, but the attacker retreated this time, so we are pushed away. Okay, so we can still take that. Okay, let's see what that does. Right, so we've now got some air power for the Myanmar government. So let's see what that does on this unit. 0.2. So again, it's sort of fairly irrelevant. Let's see what we can do against this as a direct attack. 1 to 1. So it's sort of as I thought, really. Each side are sort of 1 to 1, or this is a 1 to 1 against 1. 2 of them are a 1 to 1. But now they've got the drones. But that doesn't really do much or mean much. Now they're going to be a lot in there, so we have to bear that in mind. But now we've got these units here, so we sort of got to respond, really. Can only move one at a time, so they're going to outmaneuver us in these wooded jungles, or these jungle hills, hilly jungles. Okay, next turn. Right, so we do have our drones. We know they're not brilliant, but no, he's recovered fully, so do we really want to sort of try that? Quite probably yes. But we're at depression 3, so I think we're going to recover. Let's see whether we can actually make any grounds with these drones, because we might need more of them. So in that instance we managed to inflict 1.5 damage. So it's going to be a very slow and boring game, but at the same time we can sort of see that they do have an effect. Probably want to just sort of leave him there for the time being. We can leave that to try and take this town. So it's going to be a very slow game. But automatically you get an idea of sort of what the government might be up to, or up against, from the point of view of being outmaneuvered in this very sort of jungly area. Again, I don't really know much about what's happening, but I'm going to hopefully try and do a few of these scenarios, just because I feel guilty about not doing much for some time, but they are so much easier, and really try and get my head around what's happening, because they are actually saying that the rebels might be winning in the Myanmar, whatever you call it, you know, like it is a sort of like, you know, quite a significant war that's been going on for quite a while, and that's been completely under the radar for me, because I have been sort of unobservant, and B, you know, the Ukraine situation has taken all the headlines. But this looks like quite a big thing that's sort of happening. You know, I did sort of spot something that was, oh, I don't know, South America somewhere, some riots that were sort of pretty intense. and I was going to do those, but I mean this is actually proper stuff. So I'm going to try and get my head around all of that. I'm not sure how to make this scenario more interesting, because already it's sort of gone pear-shaped for the rebels there. They don't appear to have the upper hand anywhere else, and we might need to bring these people back or consolidate them, but let's just play a couple more turns, because at some point the government get more units here. I thought it would be a sort of a walkover really for the rebels, but the thing is that if you look at the live UA map, they've taken lots of places, but the thing is, were they contested? If you look at this, you know, it's fairly remote sort of terrain, so you know, you can sort of get the idea. But over here, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start a game, but I'm going to double up on some of these just to give it a bit of an edge. I'll also give the government a few more units and some air power. So let's pause it. Okay, so I've added a few more bits and pieces here and there. I think you know, just to sort of give it a bit of an edge as a game, and to maybe give us a bit more scope for exploring possibilities. In particular, I'm sort of thinking what's going to happen down here. So again, we know we've got our drones, but we've got a few more. Let's go into play mode. So what we've got, obviously, similar sort of situation over here. I'm sure he was doubled up before, but he can go in there. The question is, do we want to attack these units or split up? And I think, to be quite honest, I want to attack these units. So we know that it was a 1-to-1 before, so it's probably going to be a 2-to-1, and we probably want to use our drones. But the question is, to some extent, they weren't doing so well before, and now they've got drones, and they are. So it has to be a sort of game changer, although, you know, maybe it could be a game changer up here. So let's see if we can oust these people, because if we can get some good numbers, and we've got more drones this time, but not a huge amount more. So 0.35 is good. No effect is no good at all. 0.45 is pretty good. That's no good. Okay, it's very slow going, but these are crappy drones, so they're just dropping mortars and things like that. So it's 1.9, which is probably the best we've had of 3 goes. So let's give ourselves another 10%. It makes us a bit weak on the defence, but it gives us an extra 10% with the drones. And 1-to-1 in exchange. So we'd have to go a hell of a long way to... so he's on 2.9. Right, so what do we want to do with these units? We can either push this way, which would force these units to sort of respond, or we can come back this way. See, we could send these up here to reinforce this sector, and these down here to reinforce that sector, or we can push them here to sort of create their own force. I don't know. I think what I'm going to do... See, my natural instinct is to send them both this way and create maximum confusion. Which is what I'm going to do. Right. We can take Panlon, and let's just go for an attack here. We use the drones in the other sector. So we've got a 3-to-1 there. So we've got a massive driving force coming through here. We can only stack up 2 in these jungle hexes. We've got them half on the run, so let's see whether we can continue that. So another, well, we had good odds, but we were stopped. But 3 depressions, what are they on? 2.9. You know, as sort of units, they've now taken, you know, a blow or so. They're sort of, they're all you know, there's been two mediocre attacks. I mean, obviously we won on this one, and I think that's sort of fairly reasonable to what you might expect. This is not the Ukraine front. This is sort of like, you know, tin pot alley, so to speak, which is what makes it nice and easy to model, really. So let's see. Now they've got 2 aircraft now. So here we might be saying, well, we're a bit weakened, so we can move these units along. But if we move these along this way to defend here, we will be vulnerable to that. But we can face this unit against that, and dedicate this one to over here. But we are, I think, maybe the thing to remember is that we're quite slow. Very slow. And it might be worth just bombing these people, attacking these people. These are going to be there's 2 in that stack, so I'm gonna we could blunt this assault over here. So that pushes them up to 2, and these people up to 2.3. So I think that's quite well balanced, really, in the point of view that it's sort of, you can see that both sides have got forces, but neither side has massive odds or a massive driving force. You know, if these people lose the initiative there, then that makes quite a difference. But they've got 2.9, so if we leave that, they'll recover at least, which is probably more important, down to 1.9. Right. Now, we've made a bit of ground here, but what would be quite nice would be to completely remove this unit. Now, we might be able to do it with just our units, although pushing them out of there, because we don't really have much option. We could do this ordinarily, because now they're weakened. Because we can get him there. Look at that massive attack. 10, 20 plus 40%. This has got to be like 3 to 1. 6 to 1. DR. Four to 1 the DE. Okay, so we've got them on the run. They're pretty much gone. So we can use all our drones to try and take out Mong Ko. So it's 0.75 so far. 0.9. 1.15, 1.15, 1.30, 1.3, in addition to whatever they were, 1.6, 1.65, 1.75 damage. So that pushes them up to, obviously, up to 365. Now we could use this turn to recover. They will go down to 265, or we could push and press. And again, this is a little sensitivity of the game that sort of you know, could be very readily overlooked. I mean, we have received damage, but we're still fighting fit. but we don't have to press. And I think when you consider the Ukraine situation, which again I sort of keep sort of skimming over, really, you wonder what sort of decisions they're making in those similar situations, because it seems as though, you know, if you read the press, they're, you know, continually pressing the units against the other units again and again. You know, you might want to say, well, are these units ready? You know, they're just engaged, they've taken some damage, they were in an exchange, are they ready to do another round? You know, this would all be leadership stuff, which is covered, but I don't bother with it because it's too boring. But again, I'm just going to do it. But if you were a commander of this sort of rebel unit, you might want to wonder whether or not you want to do this, because they could recover to full strength, and obviously that would be best. They'll recover, but they won't recover that much. But let's just do it. So another exchange. So now, that's not good. See, they're down to 2. They will recover, but they're at 50% now, or getting towards that. Right, so we're all used to it. We'll take that town there. Which will take absolutely forever. Right, so this is what they've got to sort of contend with, whether or not they've lost that unit. But can't quite get into there. Now, there's no point in going across country. We're probably better off coming this way, because in what 1, 2, 3, 4 turns to get there, 1, 2, 3 turns to get there. We could bring these over, I guess, to help support these, and we've got bomber support. You see, these units have taken a bit of damage. These have taken a bit more too. 2.3. But if we support this attack here, we can stop them really having any potential to sort of do any further damage. 0. 0. Well, that was rubbish. Okay, so what do they want to do? See, now we've got these reinforcements here. Going to rest those, simply because it didn't last time. We're doing some damage there. We can take Tamoyne, because there's no competition. Okay, do we want to press here? He is almost dead, but he's fresh. However, we might be able to get into Kunlong. That doesn't have any symbol on it. Now they're digging in, so let's just drone them. So this is where the drones, I think, are demonstrating their capability. From the point of view that we've no longer got an offensive force up there, and with integrity, so to speak. You know, they've been weakened, but we've still actually got the ability to inflict damage where we want. I don't think it really worked like this because each unit's probably got their own drone force. But for sake of argument, this could be where they're sending all their drones at the moment. So they're now at 5.7. Now we're not going to fight anymore with these. We want to recover them. Bearing in mind what I said before, we could because they've gone up a lot. But I think if we can let them recover just one turn at least, and maybe another. We're sort of playing a long game of at least trying to take these units, these places. It's not essential, but again, you consider what does it mean to take a village or a town, and it's not just a simple case of driving through. You've got to go in there and take control. So deal with all the people that are in control and replace them with people either your own or people you can trust. So now, obviously, there's only such a speed that these people can get up there at. Well, we're a fighting force, so I'm not going to do much like that, but we'll leave them there because there's not much we can do. So that's it, apart from we've got some air units that can do something. We might as well bomb here. Okay. So again, we've got a situation where it's sort of, we've got disparate areas that are active. We've got a battle going on over here. It doesn't look very dynamic, but with these units sort of now deciding to recover, which then down to 1 each now. These units which are entrenching but are at 5.7, so it's maybe better just waiting and just blowing them up with drones. These units here which are a little fatigued, but they're surrounded by a fresh unit and a knackered unit, but it's a stalemate at most places. I mean, I'm not sure what's happening there, and these are going to take forever to get anywhere. So it's sort of an interesting reflection really on what might be happening. So obviously I think maybe the takeaway on it is that it's a slow process. I mean, it's a slow process moving through the jungles. It's a slow process because they don't have lightning speed mobility. Second phrase, lightning speed mobility with offensive capability, i.e. air insertion, APCs, tanks. They don't have any of that. They're just wandering through the jungle with their drones, and the Myanmar government are also wandering through the jungle but with air support and a couple of MiGs dropping bombs that don't really do much. So what we're not got here is massive entrenchments, loads of minefields, precision missiles, the sorts of things that we're seeing in the Ukraine. I haven't done any modelling of the Gaza situation, not for moral or ethical reasons, just because I'm lazy or I haven't done it. But it seems to me that the big thing with that is you're seeing what tanks do and trained armed forces do against essentially insurgents or essentially against non-armed opponents. And the obvious inference to that is that they're using their tanks to kill essentially naked men, whereas if they were actually and they think, oh well, we're a big strong force. Well, no, the Israelis are not a big strong force. If they went up against a big strong force as the Ukrainians have done in Russia, they realize what resistance is, through armed fighting forces. And I think it's quite an important. These places are exactly the same. Obviously, something's wrong there, but obviously that's what I mean. That's the situation they're in. But I think the interesting thing is we're seeing sort of warfare balanced differently between the sort of the massive capabilities of the armed forces. Russia has an armed force, whereas these people don't, etc., etc. Really, let's just have a little go. Go. Ugh. But I'm glad I've got a video out. I've got a scenario out, and hopefully I can do a few more, because this Myanmar situation is taking my interest. And then maybe I'll get some guards ones up and update the server and get things going a bit faster. The server issue is sort of not really anything I've done a couple of tweaks, because there's something I'm sort of not so much aware of as a problem with the server. But I tend to do links and I put a timestamp on it, and timestamp forces the server to refresh it. But what I've started to notice is that robots just go there and they see a timestamp and they just think it's a completely different page, and so they keep indexing millions of pages, whereas I really don't well, not necessarily millions, but if it says sort of northern Shan state, the game equals northern Shan state, but if it says game equals northern Shan state, time equals 1 2 3 4, it says okay, and then it comes back a few seconds later, it says northern Shan state, time equals 1 2 3 6. It says, oh, this must be a different one, and then it's indexed that again, and every time it does that, it uses resources up, and I think that's partly what it's doing. Basically, I'm looking through the code and trying to identify places where I can sort of stop it from doing things, and I'm also going to upgrade it. It's already upgraded, so the RAM is doubled. To be quite honest, I can't remember what it was from and what it's gone to, but it's basically doubled. It's still only got 2 CPUs, but I think it's gone from 4 RAM to 8 RAM, and for some reason the memory's doubled, so the disk space has doubled from 80 gigabytes to 160 gigabytes. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what it is, which doesn't make any difference to me. But basically, I'm going to be looking at the site and to upgrade it, because I upgraded it almost at a press of a button to pretty much what it was, because it was two CPUs, 4 RAM, and 80 gigabyte disk space. But that was something I fired up three or 4 years ago. The same price bracket, I get the same thing, but I just get i.e. twice the RAM. But I have to update to PHP 7, which is what it's running on, PHP 7. I can't use an instance to sort of upgrade that to PHP 8, so I have to rebuild the site, which is a bit more of an issue. But if I can rebuild it into PHP 8, which essentially is generally considered to be faster, I don't think it would be anything that anyone would notice. But the thing is, it's the sort of thing that gets noticed by the CPU clock, and it's the CPU clock that's causing things to slow down, because it has a sort of a burstable region. It's getting quite complex from if you're listening to this, but basically the server sort of has certain parameters and it calculates how much CPU is being used, and once it goes over a certain threshold, then it starts to throttle things, and that's sort of causing the site to be a bit slow. So having PHP 8 would sort of reduce that load, so it won't appear faster, but it will be less of a load on the CPU at any one time, meaning that it's less likely to reach the threshold that it has been reaching. To be honest, I have no idea why it's been slowing down. I can only imagine that it's some sort of, I wouldn't say it's a DOS attack, which is denial of service, because if it was, it would be serious. I just think that there's a lot of robots rooting around. I think that's what I think. And so I can sort of do things to limit that a little. But obviously, if I was making loads of money out of the game, I could increase the server, stats to something major. So it is just a server limitation, because you could almost say it's a cheap ass server. It's not cheap, but it's low spec. It's not the lowest. I mean, I think I'm on the 4th rung up the ladder. It starts off at 0.5 gigabyte, and then 1 gigabyte, and then 2 gigabytes, and then 2 gigabytes and 4 CPU and then 4 gigabytes. So it's at that level. But I'll leave it at that because I sort of want to get off. I can't remember what I was doing there now. But so I just wanted to sort of do a video really. But proof is in the pudding, so to speak. See what they do, not what they say. But hopefully I'm going to get a few more of these Myanmar situations done and a few more scenarios and just really try to bring it a bit more up to speed. The game all works though. So, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.